Three unidentified airborne objects shot down over Alaska, Canada, and Michigan in the last 3 days. The Pentagon and intelligence officials are left to piece together the meaning behind these incursions. While it's unclear if the latest objects came from China, it's certain that China is taking note. I mean, they're watching. There's more behind this. Why all of a sudden are we seeing these things? Well, join me now to talk more about this is FRC's Executive Vice President, retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, who spent the last 4 years of his 36-year military career serving as the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. He was also a founding member of the U.S. Army's Delta Force. General, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be with you.
I was thinking about the reason that they seem to be flying most of these over the northern part of the country. If they came over the south, back in my home state of Louisiana, I don't think they would get too far. I think some of those Cajuns would shoot it down thinking they could eat it. Let's talk about why are we seeing so many incursions into our airspace in these past several days? Have they been there? We just haven't seen them? Are we now paying more attention to it, or what?
Well, first of all, I think it's a combination of things. NORAD, since its inception, has been setting their radars in such a way that they could pick up an incoming strategic threat. You can call that a missile, a bomber, a fighter, or something like that. And the radar was not set low enough to be able to detect this kind of thing. So I think that it's possible that we have had this before and not detected it. And this one was detected primarily because some Americans saw it there in Montana. But the other possibility too, and I think it's probably a combination of the two, I think we're being played right now by the Chinese. I think this is something that the Chinese are doing to see what our reaction is. It's a reconnaissance, if you want to call it that, to find out how we're going to react, what our capabilities are. And I think that in the future, our NORAD radars will be set to pick up this kind of thing.
It was interesting. I was reading General Van Herk at NORAD. He said our radars could not adequately detect hypersonics. And so that was a gap in our radar capability. But then we have the low-tech side with these balloons. So it seems like we've got some gaps on both ends.
We indeed do, and we are dangerously behind in the hypersonic technology. We had a program, and then we decided to eliminate it with budget cuts a few years ago. We're back in the program now. We're trying to catch up with the Chinese and the Russians, but yeah, we have a problem there, and it's got to be addressed pretty quickly by the Congress.
The reaction we saw over the weekend with these objects, still trying to figure out what they were. Some said that one of them, I think yesterday, was described as not a balloon. These being shot down pretty quickly after they were discovered. Is this in part a response to the public reaction to allowing the Chinese spy balloon to float across the country without taking action?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And, first of all, for Mr. Schumer to make a statement like you just played a few minutes ago, I think just destroys whatever credibility he has on this issue, because I doubt very seriously if while that thing was in the air, if we were getting a whole lot of intelligence from that. But no question, we're going to get a lot from the wreckage there of all of these. We're going to find out a lot of things. In fact, we're going to probably find out that there are even some U.S. components in these things. But I think that what we've got to do is we've got to prepare ourselves for more of this, because I think you're going to see more of it.
Did you say his statements discredit him?
Well,
okay, well, hold on. Let me play clip 3 again. Play clip 3.
We got enormous intelligence information from surveilling the balloon as it went over the United States
Didn't the
and
Chinese
watching.
get enormous intelligence as well?
Well, they could have been getting it anyway.
Oh, let's break out the popcorn. Let's just sit there in the lawn chairs and let's watch that spy balloon float across the United States. I mean, ludicrous. But he said, well, they could have gotten it anyway, so it's no big deal. So let the balloon fly.
Yeah, I was chastised by a a Democratic congressman here a couple of days ago for something that I said on a program with Fox News, and but I said, we should have knocked that thing down as soon as it got to the Aleutians. There, it was in our territorial waters and our territorial airspace. We should have knocked it down right then, because the reality is we didn't know for sure what was on that. What was the payload?
Right.
Could it have been a low yield nuke that would have created an EMP and knocked out much of our power grid? Could it have been a chemical warhead? Could it have been a biological warhead of some kind? We didn't know. Now, this congressman claims that we knew exactly what was on there, and our military had it all under control. But I don't buy that. I don't see that at all.
Well, that was kind of a question I had as we've seen this response over the weekend. I mean, you said you feel like China is probing. They're trying to see what our response is. I mean, could we be lured into a pattern of a response, and maybe at some point there is a payload on one of these, and based upon how we react to it, it could cause catastrophic damage here in the United States?
Well, it's certainly a possibility, and that is the one thing that I really fear. The other thing that I'm concerned about, though, is that we use the same pattern each time, and then we get set up, and they send something in here that's either, when it explodes, it's going to be devastating, or they put it's a manned vehicle, which, human life is not to them what it is to us. And so I'm very concerned about that. But again, I say we've got to knock them down when they're off the Aleutians or in the Pacific Ocean before they traverse the entire country.
Right.
Look at whatever they want to look at before they do what the balloon did, and go out to sea on the Atlantic side.
House Foreign Affairs Chairman Mike McCall sees a connection here with Taiwan and China's plans for Taiwan. Do you see a connection there?
There's no question. And look, I think a lot of what China is doing today is rehearsals for, preparation for, and planning for ultimately their takeover of that small island out there they are focused on. They're obsessed with it. And Taiwan has been their target since, 1947, 48?
What does the U.S. military need to change in terms of addressing these new threats and these probes that we're seeing from China?
What they need to do is they need to stop wasting time and get our forces, all levels, our strategic forces, our tactical forces, get them ready to fight a war. That's why, as I said on your program last week, this General Minahan, who wrote a memo to all of his people, right, telling them to get ready to go to war, he was spot on. This guy ought to be promoted instead of being denigrated.
Right. He was rebuked.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he's given the message that you just said needs to be given to our military. Prepare. He's on the ground. He's doing that, and he's rebuked by those in the Pentagon. That tells me we're out of step with reality.
That's right.
General, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to see you. Thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon.
Good to be with you, Tony.